go.
Hi garden buddies. I'm back because I know that you guys have been working on your pollinator work, and last time we were together we talked about the 5 groups of pollinators and how they like different kinds of flowers. And then I had encouraged you to go see if you could find a flower somewhere in your neighborhood or your park or your yard or maybe somebody else's yard. So now I'm going to show you what we're going to do with them as we investigate a little bit of the flower anatomy, which is what the pollinators really pay attention to. Sort of like they're looking for where the good stuff is. And remember, the pollinators are often visiting the flowers because they love the sweet nectar that's in them. It's sort of like syrup that we eat on our pancakes. And so they're going after that delicious nectar, maybe to suck it out like a straw with the butterfly, or the bee is going to lick it and consume it, and other bats may be looking for some sweet little nectar that's caught in the flower or in a fruit. But the interesting thing is that every flower is made differently, and some pollinators can't even go into certain flowers. So we're going to investigate, and then you guys are going to do your own experiment and see what you can find, and maybe do some special drawings on the different flowers that you find. So we'll take a look at this parts of a flower, and this is just a simple drawing that shows some of the words that describe the different parts of the flower. So of course everybody knows that the flowers have a petal, but inside they have these cool things that are called anthers, which is normally where all the pollen sits. The filament is what holds the anther up like this, and that whole thing together, that is called a stamen. And then this part up here that sticks out sometimes is called the stigma. And see, it has different parts going down too. So that stigma, style, maybe the pollen tube, and down here there's the ovary and the ovule. Those are all together called the carpel. But these are words that we use a lot. Stigma, we might see some petals. We could probably find the anthers and the filaments, or the whole stamen. Some of the other stuff might be hard to see just with our eye. So I got some flowers, and I thought we would take a little investigation of some of these different types of flowers. This one in particular is sort of like a bunch of flowers all together in one. And if you open it up carefully, you find these hidden parts. So you are going to have to pull your flowers apart. Now let's see if we can look in here. I see right away a middle one that's a lot longer. That must be the stigma. And then the side ones, which have the filament and the anther to make up the whole stamen. So right on the end of there, which we can't hardly see, is probably some pollen. Maybe I can get some on my finger. Well, I'll try in a minute on some other flowers. So the animals, the pollinators, they come in, and they're looking for some nectar, which is often down, tucked down deep. See how my fingers are getting kind of sticky? So that nectar's down here. While they're getting that nectar, they happen to get the pollen on them. And the pollen travels with them. It sticks to them. So they fly to another flower and they share the pollen. And it's sort of like this. This flower might have an ingredient in its pollen that this other little piece of this flower really needs. And so as the pollinator flies from one flower to the other, it ends up sharing the pollen and making, helping the flower to produce new flowers. So let's just look at some other examples to see. This is a California poppy. I only picked this because it was in my yard. In public places, it's the state flower and you're not supposed to pick it. But look at all the beautiful stamen that are in this one. Oh, they come off with each little petal. That's interesting. I've never seen that before. So see those, look at that right there. Each one has its own set of stamen, and then this middle section is where the stigma is. And probably you might even be able to open this up and see deep inside and see some of those other parts. If you got a really sharp knife and you could cut it open, but look at, see, I wonder if there's any pollen left on these that we can see. You'll have to figure out if you can find pollen. So this one's very interesting because it's a tricky flower. It's called a composite flower, and I'll tell you why. All those little teeny tiny bits in the middle down there, they're all like they're individual flowers that make up one whole flower. And so in order to see the parts in this one, you would probably have to have a microscope and some tweezers to pull it apart, which you might be able to do at home, and see out of a few of them you can...
Stop. Your phone is low power mode. Okay, keep going. You're just gonna have to cut that part out.
Okay.
So just go from...
I'll go from, you might even be able to, and I'll just kind of...
Yeah.
Okay. You might even be able to pull this apart with tweezers and look at some of those individual little flowers. But a lot of flowers are actually composite flowers, where they're like a lot in one. A sunflower is a good example of a composite flower. And finally, look at this one. This would be an example of something probably a hummingbird would like, right? Because it would take its little nose and duck it right in there. And nobody else can fit in there except for small bees maybe. But look, when we open it up, let's see what we find. Oh, there's all of those interesting parts. So we can see the petal, and then it reveals the stamen with the filament and the anther, and the other two parts that are the stigma. Finally, let's look at this one. I bet you know something about this. This is like our other composite flower. It's a bunch of individual little flowers, and if you look at it from an angle, let me see if I can tip it so you can see. See all those little things on top? Those are all the stigma that are sticking out of each individual flower. This is an aster. So now you know there's quite a variety. So you're going to go out and look, and I'm gonna put on another video how to make your newest garden journal, and it's going to be made with just recycled materials, and then you're going to start drawing some of the cool things that you're investigating into your garden journal, and you can always send a picture of it to your teacher at the end of the week and show them what you've drawn in there, because we're going to do some other investigations that you might need to use that for. So check out one of the other videos that has those instructions on it, and remember, you can always go to soilborn.org to see all of the links for all the videos if your teacher didn't send you all of them. So I'm excited to talk to you guys again, and I hope that you have a great day.